Tell us some of the really unique skills that Newbury can do.
Sure. He can pick up a credit card with his mouth off of linoleum, which I can't do all the time with my fingers. So he can do that. He can, on two paws up on a countertop, to give a credit card or money or an object to another person. And one thing that service dogs do is they hold things until a human hand is there, and then they're given the command to give. So having a child with autism, that was one that was, in particular, was really helpful, because if I was working my daughter through a behavior in the middle of a mall, well, that's of course when you drop your wallet, drop your purse, drop your keys, you know, something that you don't want just laying on the floor while you're trying to work with your child through a meltdown or behavior. So I would just tell him to get those and hold them, and then he would get them and hold them until I, you know, physically put my hand out and said give, and then he would give them back to me at that point. So, so that was a very particularly helpful behavior. The other one is just the maneuverability. My daughter was really afraid to ride on airplanes and would bite me on the arms and neck and chest whenever we would get on an airplane. He was able to, having us working as a team and her holding his leash, her attention would be on him, not on me. And he would lead her, he would go first, and he would lead her down the airplane aisle to our seat. And that really helped her to be able to navigate that space and focus on him instead of getting all worked up and sensory overload and that kind of thing. He also knows a behavior that helps with some sensory overload. It's taking a behavior that's called a push command and kind of modifying it a little bit. Labs have these lovely big fat heads, and so the push command was with the nose, but he would take the push command and use it with his head to push into her abdomen to give her some pressure, and we would use that not only to give sensory input but also to help interrupt a maladaptive behavior, and so that was really helpful as well.
So Newbury has just really been a part of Little Star for 10 years. He's been the grand marshal of our parade, like most every year, and we'll definitely post some pictures of
Honorary
Newbury.
staff person.
Absolutely. He shows up for when we had Christmas parties, holiday parties. He would always show up in a super great outfit, looking super dapper. Can you tell us, like, if a family was thinking about pursuing a service animal, what advice would you give them?
I would say do a lot of research on the companies in your area that claim to train service dogs. I would say make sure that they, and I always get this name wrong, so I'm going to look at my paper, make sure that they follow the International Association of Assistance Dog Partners standards, because those are quality standards that are objective. And so I would make sure that they do that. And I would look at their training and also their follow-up and support program. And also look at, too, what kind of dogs are they using? Because like I said, not every dog has the temperament just genetically to be a service animal, and also not all dogs have the size to be a service animal. So it would be very difficult to teach a Chihuahua to be a service animal. I mean, let's be honest, they don't have the physical stature to do jobs for individuals. If you're going to be out in public, like I said, they have to be invisible. So if you have a dog that is going to bark at everything that moves, or is going to bark at every squirrel, or is going to bark at children or whatever, that's disruptive, and you should never hear a service dog bark in public. So you'd want to ask a lot of questions about the training, how they select the dogs, and how the dogs were raised as puppies and things like that, to see if they've really been kind of groomed for this for a very long time. I don't really think it's something that a company could teach anybody's pet to do in 6 weeks or something like that. It takes a lot of time and effort. The second biggest thing I would say is look at their recipient support program. How do they do in terms of training you once the dog's been trained? What kind of follow-up do they do? Do they come and do testing in public and watch you with the dog and make sure that you're maintaining the skills? And are they educating you about what's really required for a dog to be out in public? Those things like not barking, not licking the floor, staying kind of in a tight formation, not disrupting other people, because that would show that like really the quality of the program. If they just kind of say, hey, we can train any dog you want and we can come, you know, spend an hour with you once a week for 6 weeks and then you'll be good to go with full public access, I would question that. If it seems too good to be true and too easy, it probably is not high quality to that.
Yeah, so that brings me to another question. So you are going to get a new puppy in March.
Yes.
I hope that you will come back with him or her.
We will.
And introduce
We'd love
everybody
to.
and let us know how that's going.
Yeah.
Another question for you. What are some of the most common questions that you would get from people out in the community when you had, you know, Newbury out with you guys?
Sure. Well, number one is, can I pet your dog? Absolutely, number one. Number two is, I know I'm not supposed to pet your dog, but I'm petting him anyway. Situations.
So if people do see a dog with a vest on, you know, they should ask for permission? Is that correct?
They absolutely should ask for permission. Absolutely should, because the dog is working and you don't want to interrupt that work.
Okay.
For Newbury, part of his job was to help our daughter socialize. So it was appropriate when asked for him to be petted. But for someone who has a physical disability and the dog is actively engaged in working for that person, you know, I would suggest not even asking if you can pet the dog. If they are stationary and, you know, they are not trying to move through space, you know, that's maybe a different thing, but really the dog is working and shouldn't be interrupted unless and you don't know if part of their job is to help socialize or not. So you just kind of want to assess, you know, what is the dog doing and want to make sure to definitely ask. And
so if somebody did ask you, most times you would say sure?
If someone asked me, I would say you have to ask Elle. This is her dog, and he works for her. And then they would ask my daughter, and then she would say, oh, sure, you can pet my dog. And then either they would start asking her questions instead of asking me, which was kind of the whole point. He's her dog, and she's not invisible, and so interact with her. Or she would start offering things even and saying, this is Newbury, he's a service dog, or start, you know, just spontaneously communicating with them, which was great. And there were a couple times which, you know, for me, watching my daughter with autism do this was so great. You know, we'd go into Barnes & Noble or Michael's, and a couple times she just stood outside the store, it was nice weather, and just appointed herself the greeter for the next, you know, 20 minutes. Just, hi, how you doing? Just talking to everybody who came into the store and introducing Newbury, which I thought was very appropriate and great, and was, you know, so much more social than she really had ever been before him. So that was great.
What has Newbury and having a service dog brought to your life?
Oh, I think having Newbury really has just been ease of accessing the world, you know, and also helping to make our world bigger. I don't know that we could have conceived of having a fun vacation with our daughter without the service dog. Being able to ride on airplanes, being able to go new places without having an exit strategy and, you know, just this whole almost just super well thought out plan about how it was going to go. And so I think just broadening our world for our whole family, really. I know he works for her, but he really has made our entire family's life better by just helping to open up our world.
Well, speaking on behalf of Little Star, I think he's brought, you know, all the, you know, the children and the patients and the staff at Little Star, like they love him. It's like, Newbury's here, you know, like he is a star. And he has brought, you know, just so much joy to, I think, everybody that knows him and interacts with him. You are a good boy. You are. So, Michele, thank you so much for all your time and today and sharing Newbury and your experiences with us. I know that so many of our families watching are very interested in this, and I think that you've just given them a lot of great information, and they will put their comments below, and I will forward any questions on to you.
Sounds
that you
great.
can answer, and we'll get the information back to them.
Will do.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So thank you everybody so much for joining us today on Life with a Side of Autism. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, amigos.